Good morning to you beautiful 852 subscribers. Hope you're all well. Welcome to what in effect is day 11 of the pool build. We had a couple of misforeign days obviously because of busyness elsewhere and supplies, but the guys are on site this morning, so there is 1, 2, 3, 4 plus the owner who's just shot off to go and get some materials. So fingers crossed we might make a little bit of more of a dent this morning. Dent meaning we want to cut the edge all the way around. We want to take up any surplus height, or lack of height should I say, so that the tiles are going to be nice and straight, not sagging or whatever else. And also they're going to, I think, look at sorting out some of the cracks that have appeared through movement to ensure we don't get any leakage. And also there's the trough floor they've got to just tidy up and get out as well. So today's going to be about obviously the outer edge. They've got to disc grind that all the way down by about an inch all the way around the pool, probably around about 2 inches on average all the way around. That will neaten up the edge and will house the LED strips that are on their way from England. And also they're going to potentially mix up some mortar and take out some of the sagging effect that we've got on the way around to make sure we get a nice straight edge so that when we tile, we're tiling down on something that's reasonably level all the way around. But obviously they can edit with tile adhesive. So let me quickly show what you're up to. So obviously you've got lines being pulled. No lasers here. Lines being pulled. So we've got lines going around the actual pool itself. That will determine the edge itself. So they'll measure from the inner edge to the outer edge, draw a line on the floor and then pull a line across and probably nail that down. Once they've done that, then they'll draw the line with a straight edge, and then it's going to be a manual disc grind, I would have thought, which, as you know, can be very difficult to get straight. But obviously standing here, that's going to have to be dead straight, unlike it is at the moment. And the edge, obviously, they're on at the moment over there. That's where we got the sag, so they're going to have to put some mortar in there. They'll probably mortar all the way around, I would have thought, just to get that a little bit more level. So that the tiles themselves, what we don't want is a tile flat and then a tile going up. We want to try and get some form of level edge all the way around to ensure that the water lands and runs off. So yeah, that's something we're going to have to do there. So that'll be a manual grind, unfortunately. So that's going to be a bit of a ball ache. But as you can see now, they're drawing on the floor, ensuring they're getting that nice straight edge. Showman's got a day off today. His little one's going to his first day at nursery, bless him. So I've shot all the windows here. We've not obviously sanded down and finished this off, but as you can see, that'll be, once that's actually sanded, that'll give a nice edge, and we better paint that in, as long as we're not seeing this obviously. So yeah, we can get that sanded down and get that repainted in, ensure that we get a good couple of coats on there, but a decent primer first to ensure we don't get that bubbling again. This is pretty much done, obviously, as I showed you before. And the logo seems to bed in a bit better as well. The bubbles that I had on the writing are all gone now. So it looks like they just needed to dry out. So that was handy. So, we've also got a few patches like here underneath that electric look. So I'm not too sure what that is, but again, it needs a good paint at some stage. But I don't want to go spending too much money on paint because we are talking about changing the colour. So again, one thing I have noticed as well, which I said to showing the other day, we've got a hairline crack that seems to be going all the way along here, and at some stage it does go up as well. Oh, there it is. So we're going to have to get that filled at some stage. We're not going to do anything on this wall at the moment because obviously it's grey at the moment and we're on about changing it to the green. But we'll again, get the doorways finished off first, get them painted in grey, and then maybe next year, once we've recouped a little bit and got a bit of cash behind us, then we can look at changing the colour to the green. But initially at the moment we'll leave it as it is, just get it painted in properly. Windows and doors, I can't see them coming here until December, so I'll get those put in the new year. I'm not going to mess around now. So that will be this big window around the corner. She is a big window, 8 foot by 6 foot, and the light that's going to come through that hallway is going to be amazing once that's in. It can't come bloody soon enough. Yeah, so the pool itself, I mean, even as it is now, it's looking 10 times better. So once that's concreted in and those levels are straightened, that will bring it to life. So we'll get those corners cut in. And get that mortar in there. I think what they're talking about doing is ordering some white trunking, put the white trunking into the floor itself, and then mortar up to it so it gives them the edge that they're looking for. My product is not going to be leaving the UK for any time soon, that's for sure. So we need to make sure that line is straight. It's got to be as straight as possible. It's a little bit wonky already, look. But anyway, I'm sure it'll change once the grinder goes into it. So I will check in with you later on as and when things happen. In the meantime, any comments will be greatly appreciated. And I will check in with you a bit later on. Take care. Okay, so we're 20 past 1. Got a bit of wind coming up, a bit of overcast. Had a bit of rain as always. And first cut been made. Let me spin it around. So the first cut has been made. They pulled the line. And we're going to just draw it with a pencil and 4-foot level, but I've got them to pull a chalk line and snap it and then try and draw it properly. So the line's not dead straight, but obviously it's very hard to do it with a angry grinder and by hand, but there's no real choice. At the moment what he's doing is actually pulling a line to try and get the height and the depth of the tiles. So obviously we want the tiles to be at an angle level. So this one here on the floor is going to have to be raised up slightly. Then it's going to have to butt with this one and then come to the edge, including the actual trunking itself. So the trunking, sorry about the wind. The trunking itself is going to be exactly the same as this trunking, which is small electrical conduit trunking, so 17mm wide, 15mm thick, and it will sit against here like that. So that's where the actual, and so the tile will come up to this edge here. So that's the aim. Obviously this tile will have to come up by about ½ an inch in mortar to allow the tile, concrete, etc. to have it nice. So they're going to be mortaring here and mortaring here in a minute. So in the minute, I think in the midst of they're just potentially trying to pull a line along so they can actually get that height done without having to manually calculate it every 5 minutes. But that is not looking too clever. So I would potentially hold off on that myself. I'll see what they say. Yeah, so we've lost about 4 hours today, but managed to sort of get a good hour in so far. So a lot more work to be done, as long as this bloody rain holds off. But I'll check in soon, give you an update. Okay, well 2:30, the pull continues. They're now cutting the other side, and the first tile bond is going down, which is normally the bond they're using between the concrete and the tile adhesive, which I'll show you in a second. We've also had to cut out one corner that's a bit too high, and also cut bits of steel, so we've had to cut the steel out as well, so to show you what that looks like. So this corner here was going to be quite high, so they've taken that bit out, but as a result of that now we've got to reapply the ball bond all along here. Also some steels, one there. We cut those out, plus the little ties as well. There's some ties in there holding up the gutter, so that's been cut out as well. And now what the guy's doing is putting the it's like a pre-bond, so I think they call it tile mortar. So it's like a concrete stroke tile mix that goes underneath the tile adhesive and the concrete. So this should be bone dry really, but then saying that, they always recommend to have a little bit of a damp surface. However, with ball bonds, you're not going to get the concrete damp. That's the whole point of putting it down. So this line he's cutting now, he's put a new disc on there, so hopefully, fingers crossed, he's getting a bit straighter. Earlier on it was a little bit off. So as you're seeing, the line itself is a little bit skew-iff at this end. It's got straight now, he's got the bigger disc on it, so hopefully that's going to straighten things up. And then what they need to do is really hose all this off, let it dry, and then put this mortar back down again. So the main thing at the moment obviously is getting this bit dry, getting the ball bond on there, letting that cure overnight so that tomorrow we can actually then continue with this stuff straight over the top. I mean really they could have got all of this all the way around today, but the weather's been a bit crap, and at the same time, you know, I just don't want them rushing. It's got to be done right. So yeah, and also they've got to leave enough for that little trunking to go around the outside, so they've got the little one over there as a little bit of a template, so they can now tap that in and make sure that that's going to get the right height. So fingers crossed. You shouldn't have to go right up to the top. Obviously got the tile adhesive to go in there as well. So, but I'll probably SL1 that in anyway. I'll probably glue that and stick that in to ensure that we don't get any moisture around it. Yeah. Apart from that, it's just a pull today. So cutting this edge in, making sure we try and get that as straight as possible so that the trunking goes in and sits nicely against it. Difficult to do with a grinder, but it does need to be as straight as possible. And then obviously the ball bond in there, which is going to take a while to get in if we don't dry out. And then obviously at the moment he's obviously laying this manual. So you can just about see a line where that green roll is. There's actually a line going across there all the way to the very end. So he's got like a little bit of a guesstimate as to how what the slope needs to be like. So he's obviously got about a ½ an inch pulled line across there, which is all over the place, all the way down there as well. You've got high patches here, as you can see that bit there, that's a high patch. So obviously there'll be hardly anything underneath that, and it sort of does a bit of an up and down all the way along. In fact, let me get in there and show you what I mean. So the line itself obviously is straight, pulled nice and tight, but you know, you've got a high point here, so you've got hardly anything there. And then obviously you lose it a little bit, so the line is now above. As you can see, there's gap underneath all the way along. So yeah, but the surface itself is doing a bit of this, so it's very hard to get that dead straight. But anyway, this is the underneath surface that they're going to put down, so you don't have to use so much tile adhesive. And at the same time, we're going to be raising this one up as well. So along here, they're probably going to do some hilty marks on here, or some grinder marks. I don't know what that would do. I would just use grinder, just literally zit 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 zit, as they call it, technical name for zit 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 zit. But these guys obviously do the hilty marks. You can see the holes. So whatever works, whatever's best. You should know that's what we do it for a living. And we've also got to fill this gap in between the pipe and the top as well. So I'm not too sure how they're going to fill that. That's definitely have to be done, otherwise we're going to get water coming down and seeping behind. Eventually it's just going to land up and get into the steel, blow in, and then we've got a whole gutter and top issue. So anyway, that's where we are so far. It's been a bit hit and miss today, so of the what are we now, coming up 20 to 3, so of the 6 hours we've probably done about an hour and a half. One because of weather, and two because of materials and tools not being here. So we need to plan a little bit better, otherwise we're going to be kicking on a 4-week project at this rate. Anyway, I'll update you as things go. 20 to 3 now. Speak soon. Okay, well, 5:30, everyone's gone, so that's a quick update. Before I gas, sorry about the wind, give me a quick thumbs up below if you don't mind. And anyone new to the channel, please subscribe. Not getting a great sunset today, guys, so I do apologise. It's a nice colour. But we haven't been, we've not been gifted today with good weather, that's for sure. It's one of the issues we've actually had, is the rain. So, as you can see by the black tarp down, yeah, the heavens opened up, and I got the guys to get this tarp over it because they were just going to leave it. So, yeah, as a result, there's a few sort of faux pas today, unfortunately, which I'll talk to the contractor about. One of the biggest issues with most contractors around the world, let alone here, is that normally people win the work and then they send staff. And unfortunately here, the one thing I have found is that there's always a lack of supervision. So obviously quite a few jobs going on, everyone darting around left, right and centre, materials need to be ordered, delivered, etc. But what that means normally is the owner or the seniors are normally the ones running around liaising with customers and ordering and delivering materials, and then the labour is left on site. So today is a perfect example. This has been put down when it was wet. You hear the thunder? This was absolutely soaking wet when this was put on, so that's going to have to be redone. They're obviously getting that down today because they obviously want to try and plaster that tomorrow. But you can't plaster on crap, you know, there's dust, and all this needs to be, you know, all needs to be swept off. You need to get everything completely decontaminated first. Then it also needs to be dry. You can't put a rubberization down on wet concrete. Sometimes if it's damp or a little bit moist, that's normally a good thing. But as you can see, they've tried to apply it in water. So over here, this was absolutely full of brick dust and mortar, and they were going to just apply it straight on top. I said, you can't do that. So we managed to get it, I bucket it all out, and I also cut the steels back, which I showed you earlier on, and they've actually applied the ball bond into that water. So there's no way in the world that's gonna have any form of cure, which means it's got to be redone. So again, here they've hilted these little holes, and I was here, so they did actually bucket some water onto it to get most of the dust and debris away. But you know, in an ideal world, you just get the bloody hose out, hose it all off as best you can, and then you're better off leaving it till tomorrow for it to be dry and then apply it when it's completely cured. But instead, there's just stuff everywhere. So I know it's me being a bit picky, but these products are good if they're used properly. If they're not used properly, they just don't work. I don't like products anyway. I like to use a mortar bond. There's a guy in America that recommends the concrete, the actual cement dust itself, water and white glue. And he recommends to dampen down the actual concrete to ensure that it's not going to absorb the moisture out of the bond. And then you put down a very thin slurry. And then before that slurry goes off, you then apply the second contact cement over the top of that. So some people recommend these Worldcretes and these ball bonds, but the fact of the matter is, you've got a dry surface trying to connect to another dry surface, and this glue is technically a bond in between the two. You don't actually need it if you do it properly, but obviously a lot of people rely on these new products. These new products are okay as long as they're put down properly. Covered in dust and stone and bits of crap everywhere and wet is not going to do what it needs to do. So now tomorrow what they'll have to do is put another coat on top of this if we're lucky enough to have it dry, and it's actually going to be going down on something that's already weak on the surface as it is. So I'm a little bit bemused as to what we're going to do there. They chased this out, and the whole point of cutting this corner was to try and make sure we could try and get the straightest edge as possible. But obviously when they're hilting it out, they're then creating big holes like this, so they're pretty much ruining the whole reason why we're doing it in the first place. You know, it's very hard as well to try and hold, in their defence, it's hard to try and control the hilty, but we're now going to have to make those corners up. So the whole point of cutting that edge was have a nice straight edge so that we wouldn't have to do any form of filling and making it look worse. I mean, it's going to be 10 times better than it was, don't get me wrong. And as you can see, it's actually a straight edge now. And it's just a shame that we've got the odd missing piece. This pipe is also quite high as well, so I'm hoping they'll be able to get the tile as low as they need it to be with that pipe being in place. And as you can see, the line itself is okay. It's not dead straight, but it's 10 times better than it was. So the sooner we can get the actual the tiling and everything down, the better, because obviously we don't want any edges to be broken off. So anyway, obviously that's down at the moment, so that will help that keep dry overnight. I mean, obviously the rain is going to be coming any point. I don't know how bad it's going to be, so it's definitely going to come and try and make our lives a bit more difficult. They didn't manage to get in here today to do anything inside there, so that's going to be another job for tomorrow. But as I say, tomorrow is going to be Tuesday. It's going to be day 12, and we are not in a situation where we're ready to be laying any form of tiling or pool product, that's for sure. So we are behind. So hopefully the guys at Revo can get a little bit more in control and get us back on track. Otherwise they're going to end up losing time, and time is money. But anyway, the guys just need to be supervised properly. That's all it boils down to. And I'm in an awkward situation because they're not my guys, so I can't really supervise it. But at the same time, I'm not prepared to stand here and watch them do something which isn't right, because the job will at some stage break down, cause a problem. Then I'll be on the phone asking them to come and sort it out. And one, they'll have to do it at their own cost. And two, even if they're prepared to do it at their own cost, I've got to have the inconvenience of having all that new product taken up. They won't be able to source the products again. So just get it done properly is what we need to do. And it's still soaking wet underneath there, look. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that'll hold off. Anyway, sorry about a little bit of a moan, but it's just disappointing to see that we made a bit of progress for the first week. Last week we lost a few days because of how busy they were somewhere else. Today we're meant to be back on full steam ahead, and we didn't even start doing any work until nearly 12 o'clock. So we lost 4 hours this morning, then the rain came down, and then I've got guys obviously trying to rush things so that tomorrow they've got a good day, which is not a good result. So I might actually try and hose some of this off now whilst I'm here, just so that it's a little bit better prepared for tomorrow, because otherwise they're going to be back down to square one trying to lay more stuff down on more crap. So try and get the hose on it and see if we can try and get it being a bit better. Other than that, hopefully it doesn't rain too much, and I will check in with you guys tomorrow for what an effect will be day 12. Hopefully we'll have a bit more of a productive day. Thanks for watching. Give me some comments below and I'll check in with you guys tomorrow.